Bruce Feldman is here. Let's talk college football, everybody. Radio audience will rejoin in a couple minutes. But what's your week one? What's your week one assignment, sir?
Tomorrow morning at this time, I'll be on a plane to go to Morgantown, West Virginia for Penn State, West Virginia.
Okay.
And I cannot wait. It's
Let's
going to be
go.
a wild team.
Yeah. I mean, I think Pat's doing a show there Friday. So.
He is. So hopefully he will get everybody lathered up and ready to go. And
He certainly did it. He got himself lathered up in Ireland last week.
He did. He likes to have a good time. That's okay. They all do there. I mean, it's like one of my buddies was like, yeah, it's too bad it's not a night game there. I'm like, listen, they can drink plenty in the morning. Don't underestimate the good people of Morgantown.
Night game. Exactly right. So here we go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones this week, right?
There are. There's
we had Whitworth on yesterday, so he's fired up for LSU,
he
USC.
Should be, and they have I don't know if they have another Whitworth, but they have a elite tackle tandem, really good offensive line. We're going to see Garrett Nussmeyer's taking over at quarterback. He's really talented. It's just, and now they got USC, no Caleb. So each team loses a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, that's right.
Except,
by the way, 1, 2. It's interesting that two teams that had sent the first and second overall picks to the NFL draft start the college football season off.
I know, and both transfer guys who had great second acts. LSU has a much better offensive line, but both teams have stunk on defense. It's year 3 for the quarterbacks. There's actually a lot of similarities between LSU and Brian Kelly and USC and Lincoln Riley at this point.
Yeah,
so.
both big-name college coaches who left previous spots to take over in the spots that they're at right now.
Yeah, and both places hate their, hate the guy for leaving.
Right.
And still are bitter, it seems like. In the case of LSU, they've lost 4 openers in a row.
How about that?
Yeah. So
yeah, that one's in Vegas as well. A nice neutral site game for a week one. Bruce Feldman from Fox Sports and The Athletic here on the show. Back on the Rich Eisen Show radio network. I'm sitting at the Rich Eisen Show desk furnished by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by as Bruce Feldman has done so in his weekly Wednesday spot all last college football season. Excited for yet another Wednesday chit chat with you. Good to see you here on the show, sir. All right, let's jump into what we've already seen. I just find it amazing, fascinating, whatever adjective you want to use, to describe the team that last year was upset about not making the college football playoff because they had 0 losses, is now the first team in our new college football world to say, hey, you don't have to have 0 losses to make the college football playoff after all. That Florida State's like, oh, 1 loss isn't the end of it. It's kind of amazing that it's the same school that's in that position based on what we just saw last week.
Yeah, much different players. A lot of those guys, I think they had 10 draft picks off that team. I thought they would have won the game against Georgia Tech handily. And credit to Georgia Tech. Brent Key is a former O-line guy. Played there, coached there, and they looked just more dialed in than Florida State. They looked a step ahead of them, and I think Florida State's still going to be really good, but it was a really shaky first start. Now they're going to play Bill O'Brien's team at BC. I mean, their start of their schedule now all of a sudden looks more competitive than I was, thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I still think they're a playoff team, but The biggest question mark for me is, can DJ Uiagalelei, can he really beat teams consistently with his arm? Because the other day in Ireland, he could not, and he did not. And they lost not just a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, but they lost a couple of elite big receivers. And that's a question mark for them is the passing game. Mike Norvell, I give him a lot of credit. I think he's really good with quarterbacks. They have to make big improvement from what we saw last week.
And that said, 2 of the guys that could have prevented Georgia Tech for running for 190 yards on the ground are playing for the Los Angeles Rams right now, getting ready for week 1 against the Lions. So what do you take away from that game for Florida State's chances, right? Like, we are in the world where 1 loss does not matter. A second loss, right? Like, how many 2-loss teams are we already beginning to try and suss this out right now in our 12?
I think you'll see 9-3 teams in the playoffs.
You will.
So you will definitely see 2-loss teams in it. It's just a team that starts out, if they were to lose to BC, that's two losses to unranked teams. I don't think they'll lose to BC. I think they're like a 16-point favorite. And usually teams get a lot better from week one, especially if they've had the first game, whereas you're playing a team that hasn't. And then they have a Memphis team that's I think is really good coming in there with a really good quarterback, and then later on they play Miami. They have to go to Notre Dame. Like it's all right. You probably have 2 mulligans in you, but that's it. I don't think you have. If it's a team, again, I think there will be some 3-loss teams in there, but if you're losing these games, that doesn't bode so well.
Bruce Feldman here on the Rich Eisen Show. You are going to Morgantown, West Virginia this week?
Yeah, I can't wait. By this time tomorrow, I'm on a plane to go somewhere closer to Morgantown. So I can fly directly from LA to Morgantown.
Right.
But yeah, it's they had a really good team last year. Neil Brown was on a lot of people's hot seats. They won 9 games. Garrett Green's a really good quarterback. And that place is going to be wild. It is always wild when they have a good game there. And now you get Penn State coming in there. It's not Pitt, who they hate, but I don't think they like Penn State either. It's like a blue blood to them. And it's a really good Penn State team. But they're one of the more curious teams in that they fired the offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, who a lot of people around in coaching circles know who that is, but he's not a big name. He's a guy with Lance Leipold at a bunch of different places and did a really good job at Kansas. They ran the football really well, had a couple of quarterbacks because guys got injured. They're going to have to be probably a little different than what they were at Kansas because he had running quarterbacks there. Drew Aller can move, but not like those guys. And so Penn State, as you know, when they played your alma mater, they couldn't get any big plays in the passing game. Same story when they lost against Ohio State. If they're going to be a real national title contender, because they still have freak guys on defense. It's like, you remember, obviously, Micah Parsons, last year was Chop Robinson. Abdul Carter is that next guy who is like super freaky, edge guy who will be all over quarterbacks. They'll be good on defense. Question is, how much better can this offense get? We know they can run the ball, but if you can't do anything in the pass game, everybody gangs up and kind of loads the box to slow down the running backs.
When is Fox's first visit to Deion Sanders in any way, shape, or form scheduled right now?
Good question. For us, I don't know when that's going to be.
Wow. How is that possible?
Yeah, because I know our first 3 weeks. I'm not saying Fox isn't going to be invested. I know that those
is Big Noon in a wait and see mode with Prime, because last year it was like Prime Video, Fox.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
Big Noon is not like Fox is definitely not off the Deion bandwagon for sure. I know that because like when they do the draft when the TV game is ESPN in this case and Fox when it comes to the Big 12 will have their picks on which games they want to try to get.
Yes,
I'm trying to remember because I saw this probably like 6 weeks ago, but I want to say like Colorado was like in like 6 of the top 7 most desired Big 12 games.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
Deion does ratings. I think they're going to be improved. Last year 4 wins, they kind of fizzled out. They were terrible in the trenches. I think they'll be a lot better, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because of what they added. The question is, them more than almost anybody cannot afford their starting quarterback to go down, because I just think there's huge drop off. Shador is a really good quarterback. They've added some really good receivers to already Travis Hunter. And
what about
Jimmy
sanding the
Horn Jr.?
pants up front, though? I mean, like that's the question.
Yeah,
because I mean, Shador is getting
he took a beating
Sanders kicked in
Yeah.
last year towards the end.
It'll be better. It can't be any worse. I think they'll be considerably better on the D line. I think they'll be better on the O-line, but I don't know how much better. I think they're probably a 7 or 8 win team this year.
What's your opinion of Prime versus local columnist that's going on right now?
It's not a good look for anybody, to be honest. It's just like, do you need like? I'm sure he's fine with it. He's
who, Deion?
Yeah, he's fine with it. But I think like. It's just one of those things where if it doesn't take the next step, right? Because I remember how bad they were before he got there.
Oh, you mean the program you're talking
about?
The
program, yes.
Okay.
So they went from 1 win the year before and were getting blown out by everybody to 4 wins and were very competitive. But it was still only 4 wins. If he goes 5-7, I don't think Deion doesn't care what other people think. But eventually it's like, you're going to get a ton of blowback from that.
But you know, and even I will point out, like, how can you say he doesn't care what people think when he won't entertain questions from a reporter that is saying, and yet, you know, it's a columnist saying some, you know, very highly critical things of Deion and the way that he runs his program. So I again, yeah, I mean, when you pick a fight with anybody in the media, that's just you're never going to win it. That's a losing battle.
I feel like Lane Kiffin's won some of these fights.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I feel like in this day and age, whether it's on social media or not, you know, you can get in these little spats with, you know, whether it's a talk radio person, whether it's somebody who's like on a morning, you know, like Skip Bayless type or whatever. Right. And you can get in those, and it's just, I don't know how much it helps, you know, anybody. Again, it's probably a natural reaction to push back. You know, again, I don't know how, if you're winning, yeah, everything's fine.
That's
if you're
damn
losing,
straight,
then
man.
all of a sudden it just becomes another dust up, and it feels like another distraction. It gives more people to pick at you.
That's the ultimate answer, is just win. Just win, and then suddenly all of this stuff goes in a totally different direction. And obviously, you know, his team's more talented this year than the previous year. I mean,
yeah, but
you
again,
can't make that argument.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, again, it's how big of a step did they take forward? It's year 2. You've gone heavy in the portal. You know, I think they're probably a 7 or 8 win team if they get to that.
That's great.
I think that's great.
You double your wins in
if you go to 5 and 7.
Oh boy.
You know, then all of a sudden, I think there's going to be a lot of vultures circling who are going to be like, yeah, I told you so. This wasn't working out.
What's the Heisman race looking like right at the outset?
The guy Feldman, I think has the best chance of winning is Dillon Gabriel. He was really good at UCF. He was really good at Oklahoma. Now he goes to Oregon, where he's a great fit for the system. The guys I talked to up there love him in terms of how he fits, his leadership, his presence. He's got a big it factor about him. He's really good in terms of like kind of elevating everybody else around him. And obviously Bo Nix was terrific for them. He fit in. And I think Bo Nix, when he came in there, was kind of dusting himself up after ups and downs at Auburn, and got a new start, and it was great. And I think those guys run a really good system. Like the OC there, Will Stein, was a former, Louisville quarterback of the Teddy Bridgewater. He's a guy, remember the name. He's going to be a terrific, he'll be a head coach before too long. But I think they added some really good transfer guys. They have 2 really good tackles, offensive tackles. I think Dan Lanning's in that kind of sweet spot with Oregon. I think they're a legit national title threat. And I think Dillon Gabriel's going to put up enormous numbers this year.
I mean, Ohio State, Oregon, it's like game of the year when that happens.
It is,
right?
but go back to this.
That's in Oregon.
That's
correct?
up in Eugene, right? But, win or lose, both teams are going to probably go,
right.
I think are going to go to the playoffs. So
yes.
It's going to feel a little more like the NFL. Like, remember we had, I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, where it was like the Chiefs game where it was like 52-49. It was a great Monday night.
Against the Rams, yeah.
Against the Rams. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's fun, but then you're going to probably see something different in the playoff, right? And that's how college is now.
And that may happen between Michigan and Ohio State this year. Big noon or a Fox. It's all on the line. It's so big. We've been talking about it. For and that I can already see it. If it is 2 undefeateds going at it, that would be certainly. I think in the case of my program, the way that a lot of people are saying would be surprising. If
it would be surprising to me as well.
Okay, and in the case if that happens, in previous years it would be the earth stopping spinning.
They could play technically 3 times this year.
No doubt. I mean, and that's entirely possible, right? And so
I do think there's a better chance of Oregon and Ohio State playing 3 times.
Of course. I mean, why? I mean, Oregon and joining the Big Ten is going to be fascinating to see. We'll see if they get clipped in some spot in the upper Midwest where they normally wouldn't even think about getting clipped. I don't even know their schedule off the top of my head.
They got the Idaho Vandals week 1, so I don't know if it's clipped. I mean, they're a good FCS.
No, I'm not talking about this.
Okay.
I'm talking about conference play. Trust me. Many Michigan seasons are littered with losses in Iowa that I didn't see coming.
Urban had a season where it was littered with a loss against Iowa too.
Right.
It's like there's there's enough big physical people where if you do not have your A game, you could get got. I mean, Purdue got, again, Ohio State was loaded.
I remember that, yeah. Was it Rondell Moore coming out?
Rondell Moore ran wild.
Pew, pew. We got Bruce Feldman here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is going on with my alma mater right now? What is going on with Michigan?
You got to replace an entire O-line. You got to replace a leader and a really talented quarterback. And Blake Corum. Obviously, they still have Donovan Edwards. I think they're good there. They have really good tight ends. I think they're going to be really nasty on the defensive side of the ball. You know, I think they'll be elite on the D-line. You have the best corner in the country who's like, one of the guys I know is up there on that staff, just kind of raves about Will Johnson and how, like, sees the game like a quarterback and all, you know, just like off the charts intangibles. They added a really good transfer and Jayshon Barnum from Maryland, who's fits. He's like a nasty physical guy. So I think defense is really good. So the question is, I think they're probably a 3, maybe a 4-loss team because I just think they lost too much on offense, and we'll see whether it's Alex Orji, whether it's going to be Davis Warren.
So you don't think Michigan's going to defend their title? I have a chance.
I mean, having a chance. I think they lost too much.
You do?
I don't think it's a reflection of, it's just everything was building towards last year. And not only, I still think they're really talented on defense, but they also lost, the best leader on the defensive side of the ball. Now he's playing for the Commanders. He was a great, utility knife. And I think they just, I'm not saying they don't have any good leaders left.
Right.
I just think they lost too much from last year's team.
What about the NCAA circling? Is there anything going on there?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, didn't they just get the?
They did. But again,
some document to let them know what's coming on the Connor Stalions front.
Yeah,
That's for some. How did that not get leaked? I'm kind of stunned that didn't get leaked.
I don't think there's
the
that much
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there's that much different in this one than the one that got leaked a week before or whatever in the formal one. From what I heard, it had come up about Sharon Moore deleted text. From what I'd heard, I don't know if they're going to anything substantive was in the deleted text that they already actually have now.
Right.
It's a bunch of those people are now not working at Michigan anymore. Right. And so again,
including the subject of a documentary right now. Have you watched that?
I have. I saw it. I saw a lot of you in there, by the way.
You know what? It's interesting. You know who's also interested in that? My lawyer. I haven't heard. Nobody asked. Nobody reached out about using any of our material there. Just throwing that out there. But that said, what'd you make of it? Because I haven't seen it. I've heard a lot of people saying what you just said. You're in it a lot.
You're in it a lot,
which is great.
So it's definitely interesting because you see Connor's backstory. If he grew up, dressing as Bo Schembechler when he was 7 years old for Halloween.
Isn't that lovely?
And he grew up
so just sweet. Like you, Rich.
I am sure he was a bigger Michigan fan growing up than.
That's great.
This really hurts you. You don't want to.
No. It's all right. No. I wish he grew up loving George Perlis more. You know what I mean? That would have been great. Because seriously,
this really hurts you.
Here's what happens. Is that again? My opinion on all this. I don't need to review it. Although apparently it has been placed in front of the Netflix viewing audience. That there had to be something up with this guy, right?
Yes,
and the fact that he's like, does that even look like me on the Central Michigan sideline? And then Portnoy's like, he told me he did that, and it's the cartoon lying, right? That makes whatever you think is bad about it worse. And that's what it's like, bro, if you're just going to sit here and deny and lie and whatever about what you did, not about, what maybe others knew, then you're making it worse. And go away. Go away.
I think the thing that kind of jumps out at is how Connor sees himself compared to how almost everybody else sees it. Almost everybody else is there's a big gulf between those two things in terms of the perception of it.
Yes.
And not. Now, if you're a Michigan fan, which obviously you are,
yes, sir.
The best thing you can cling to is once he was gone, they still won all the games.
That's what I said on McAfee's show when we did the simulcast, Root and Branch. She started making fun of me. You know what we should do? We should send you to Connor Stalions' house to enlighten him on the way the rest of the world views him. Would you do that, Chris, if we find you?
No, I want nothing to do with this ever again.
Nah, you and me both.
I don't like talking about this.
I know. It's one of those stories that just like there's a little bit of Galooly feel in this. If you remember that reference, like,
write it down. Galooly feel. By the way,
late entry.
As a fantasy team name, or just by the way, you've come up with a great adjective. There's a Galooly feel to it.
That's like there's definitely like the gang that could, like in some ways, I think Connor is very smart about certain things, but then there's other things where you're like, okay, he was incredibly sloppy in how he did this. Like other people may, you hear are doing things on not the same scale in terms of the advanced scouting, but have drifted into those waters, but they have not left a trail of breadcrumbs like this.
So I think let's just, before I let you go, let's come up with the definition of Galooly feel.
Good.
Where something nefarious taking place, but too much, three-dimensional chess is being ascribed to what is something completely slapdash and sloppy. Would you say that?
Yeah.
That something happened that the whole world is talking about that potentially affected competition or was attempting to affect competition, but ultimately did not. As we all know, Nancy Kerrigan still crushed it.
Yep.
Right? So that's a Galooly feel.
So
did it come up with it?
She won the silver.
And Michigan won the gold.
Have you seen this documentary yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
What,
So
the one on Netflix you're referring to?
Yeah.
The one
So
that I'm apparently all over?
So there's a part of it where there's a big Ohio State message board guy who goes on, but
great.
is masked. Like, for all we know, it could be Del Tufo going on there to zing you.
That would be great.
Zing me?
And Michigan fans. You don't know.
What, me in particular?
Well, he's...
Message board dude uses my name?
No, he's not going after you. He's obviously hates Michigan. But
he's masked? Like he's masked?
Totally could be me.
Masked. It totally could be.
What do you mean masked? Like he's Nacho Libre or something? Like, what does he look like?
Oh, you'll see it.
I don't want to see it.
I have to watch this now.
I'm not watching this. Well, a number of people that text me like, you're all over this thing.
You are all over this thing.
When I get my residual check, I'll let you guys know. Kidding.
Wow. I love
just to throw it out.
Like 60 Minutes? Like his face is black?
No,
and
he comes
his
on
voice
in a ski mask and sunglasses.
Oh, great. So a message board dude is allowed to wear a disguise and spout off on anything. Is that what you're telling me? And then, just so everyone understands, if you use Rich Eisen Show material, you do have to ask permission.
Please get clearance.
Yeah. That's the way it works, right? Holy crap. Hey, listen, I was on the Brady roast and now I'm on this. I'm all over Netflix.
Nice, love it.
Go figure that. All right. Thanks, Bruce.
Bruce.
I do. You're right. I mean, this thing, but the NCAA is not going to page turn here. Just so, I guess, in all seriousness, does anything of what we just discussed come home to roost and suddenly we're talking Petitti's acting, the NCAA's acting during this playing season?
They already suspended Jim Harbaugh for a significant amount of the season. Like, it wasn't like he didn't get got in that regard.
6 games.
Right.
Well, 3 for the burger and 3 for this. Right.
So, and it wasn't like they said, hey, we're going to suspend you for Miami of Ohio and, like
Kent it's Penn State, Ohio State, and the trap game of Maryland in between.
So you get, like there was a significant punishment there. And again, those guys are gone. Like, are you really going to suspend this to punish Davis Warren?
They sent a show cause letter to Harbaugh across the street.
Yeah, I mean, look,
it's like again, my physics teacher saying you're missing a lab back in junior year of high school.
I'm sure.
So if you ever come back here, you're in trouble.
Connor Stalions will have a long time show cause, but it's like, is that going to matter? Who's going to hire him in college football? I mean, if somebody would hire him, it would be for some kind of behind the scenes thing.
Is he wearing a disguise and maybe you don't know it's him?
I don't know.
Him saying, like, I don't know. Is that me? I have no idea. Cut to Portnoy. That's him. He told me it was him. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy Morgantown. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday. We're in Kansas City. So we'll see you the Wednesday after that. Okay. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.